Alright, the first book of August is The Sinister Mystery of the Mesmerizing Girl by Theodora Goss. This is the third book in a series. I don't really know what it's called. It's the Athena Club Adventures or something. It was like, okay. I don't know. I spent a whole, I don't know. It wasn't as interesting or exciting as previous entries, I felt. I don't know. The basic plot of this one is that at the end of the previous book, the character of Alice, who was like a kitchen maid, was kidnapped, and Sherlock Holmes has also been missing for like a while. And so in this book they need to go find them, and it turns out they've been captured by this group of people, including Moriarty, who is in fact not dead, who want to do some sort of weird Egyptian ritual, don't ask, and like something kidnap Queen Victoria and replace her. Except then halfway through the book, it turns out that like several of the people in that group had a different plan, but it still has to do with kidnapping Queen Victoria and replacing her. It's just they resurrect a mummy who's like an ancient Egyptian priestess with like superpowers. So that's fun. I have no idea at this point if this book is referencing any like Victorian literature, because like a lot of the characters are, you know, from stuff related to that, but like Dracula and Frankenstein and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and the Island of Dr. Moreau and probably some other stuff I don't know the titles of because I don't know anything about it. So this is just one where it's like, I don't know, is this mummy? Are these characters like Professor Trelawney? Are they from something? I have no idea. I mean, I guess Google exists, but I'm not gonna use it. I mean, some of it was fun. I kind of felt like it was just a bit of a letdown after the second book, which was, you know, so much traveling across Europe and like, vampires. Maybe I just like vampires more than mummies. I don't know. And part of the thing in this is that Alice has these like mesmerist powers, which they knew in the second book, but, and her mother has them even more, and I still am trying to figure out if she's supposed to be, if Alice is supposed to be from anything else. I don't know, I'm over here like, Theodora Goss, you're not allowed to invent your own characters. But, I mean, basically, almost all of her characters are original, they're just from things, you know? With an explanation of like, oh yeah, they made this other Frankenstein, but like, this other monster, but like, stuff like that. But like, with Alice, because her name is Alice, I spent a lot of time being like, is she somehow the Alice from Alice in Wonderland? She does at some points in the book dress kind of like what Alice dresses in like the Disney animated movie, but I don't know. There's not quite enough there. The other okay, anyway. So yeah, so that it's mostly about them trying to stop this plot and save the queen, which of course they ultimately do, and why they want to save the British Empire is not really explored. I mean, I understand that some of the characters would just sort of be invested in that inherently, but some of them, like, half the characters aren't even English. I don't know. I mean, they do kind of go into like, yeah, empires are bad, but like this one's already falling apart, and also if she were to take over, she would build an even bigger, horribler empire, and it's like, well, I guess we have to stop that. I don't know. Queen Victoria shows up at the end, which was fun. It also furthers, to my irritation, this Mary Jekyll / Sherlock Holmes thing. So, I don't like it. I didn't find it that interesting in this book because, like, in the second book, she had some scenes where she was, like, thinking about this and she was talking to Irene Adler. That's not her name anymore. Her name's Irene Norton, but, like, I'm gonna call her Irene Adler so you know who I'm talking about this. And, like, that I kind of liked. But in this book, well, okay, in this book, Sherlock's imprisoned by the bad guys for the majority of it anyway. He contributes, like, nothing to the plot, which I thought was hilarious. I don't have a problem with that. But, he's, like, I don't even know, guys. So, I also don't know if there's going to be a 4th book. Just no idea. If there is, I'll probably end up reading it. But I don't like it when Sherlock Holmes gets a love interest. I just don't. And that's how I feel about that. But it's also, like, barely in this, and I also just genuinely don't even know if that's going to go anywhere beyond where it already is at the end of this book, which is not very much. But I'm going to bitch about it anyway. Okay, so it was okay, but it wasn't, like, I don't know. It wasn't that great. They did resurrect a mummy cat, though, which I think is important to note. But it also sort of felt like it might be the end, but I'm not sure. All right, another book to talk about, The Dry by Jane Harper. It's a mystery novel. I kind of, well, okay, I listened to it on Libby, and I thought it was going to be more of a thriller, but it's actually really just, I mean, it's really just a mystery. Like, it's not at all, it's not at all thrilling, but I did enjoy it. It was solid. Like, I found myself, I don't know, like, as I listened to it, I didn't really care that much as to how the mystery was going to resolve, really, weirdly enough, but I liked the atmosphere. The whole thing is set in a tiny, like, farming community in Australia somewhere, and they're in the 2nd year of a horrible drought, and the main character of the thing is he's a federal detective for, like, some sort of, I mean, like financial crimes, I guess, basically. So, but he comes back to town after 20 years being gone, because for the funeral of this guy he was friends with when they were in school, who has apparently shot his wife and son and then himself. And slowly, Aaron Falk, that's the main character, starts, along with the new police sheriff or whatever in town, starts looking into, maybe there's a few things about this that don't really make sense. What I thought was most interesting was more related to why he left 20 years ago. Like, there was this whole thing where one of his friends died, and it was ruled a suicide, but everyone was kind of like, this is hinky, and thought it might have been murder, and then they started accusing him and his father of being one of them being involved, because for some reason she had a piece of paper in her pocket that had, or not in her pocket, in her room, they found in her room, that had his surname written on it, and a date, and he's like, has no idea why that would have been there, but ultimately they were sort of harassed to the point where they left town, and that's why he hasn't been back in 20 years, and some of this harassment starts up again when he's in town again, and I thought that stuff was interesting, because, like, he didn't kill her. There's honestly not really any question of that as you read it either. Like, it was just like, Falk is, like, a good person, you know, but, I don't know, I mean, I thought it was solid, and I quite liked it. I mean, it's funny because on the one hand, as I was listening to it, I was like, nothing's really happening, and I don't really care who did the killing, if it was in fact a murder, blah blah, but also, I'm still wanting to listen to it, and I'm still interested in the character, I guess, and I would be totally willing to read more by this author. I know she's got a couple of other mystery novels, one of which at least does involve Aaron Falk again. Although there's this part of me that's just like, he does financial crimes, so like, how many murder mysteries is he going to be involved? You know, can you really write about him? But I mean, logic never stopped Agatha Christie or any other author really. So, but there's at least one other book with him, so I'm interested maybe in reading that. But yeah, so overall solid, but definitely not a thriller, and I don't know why I thought it might be. And it has a gorgeous cover. All three of her books that I know of have very, like, they have similar style of cover, and I just think they're really pretty. I don't know, just whatever. So, perhaps more from her later. Hello. Quick update. I have read The Wake of the Lorelei Lee by L.A. Meyer. I really liked it. I really liked this one. But I am not going to get into any details because I am making another rereading vlog as I continue with the Bloody Jack adventures. This is book 8. And hopefully, if I get my ass in gear, that will be up before this particular video is. So that's all I'm gonna say. Excellent, loved it, and in a month or two we'll get to book 9. Hello. So today I finished listening to Misery by Stephen King, which is the first Stephen King book I have ever read. So congratulations to me. Yeah, so I guess Misery would be kind of, I mean, it's a horror novel. Basically, I guess. I know that a lot of what Stephen King writes isn't horror, even though that is what he's known for, but I guess yes, okay. It's horror, it's fine. Accept it. It's clearly not a mystery. I guess it's kind of a thriller. Anyway, it's about a famous author who wakes up one day to find that he's been in a terrible car accident and has been found and sort of patched up by someone who claims to be his #1 fan, who is this lady who is absolutely obsessed with a series that he just finished writing. And unfortunately, in the book that he just published and that she, like, is about to start reading, he kills off her favorite character, who's the main character. So when she gets to the end of that book, she's infuriated and insists that he has to write her another book about misery, and has to bring misery back to life. So yeah, it's really fucked up. It's really fucked up. Annie Wilkes is terrifying, frankly, and is also just, like, really interesting, and is also a serial killer. Fun fact. Although generally her MO is not to incapacitate people and then make them write books. This is a first for her, I think. But she is kind of one of those, I think they call them angels of mercy, like nurses who kill their patients. And yeah, so he figures that out later, but yeah, it's a pretty harrowing experience of a book. And I really enjoyed it a ton. Like, it was exactly what I wanted it to be. I was just like, I went into it like knowing, you know, what it was about, because of course I know what it's about, but I've never seen the movie, but you know. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want. Like, this is the one Stephen King book that I'm really interested in reading. And it was really good. Yeah, I don't know. It was exactly what I wanted it to be. It was a lot of, like, Annie Wilkes being absolutely terrifying and Paul Sheldon being absolutely terrified of her. And she's, like, legitimately nuts. And also just, like, she's violent. She's, like, very strong. She has no trouble picking him up. I think, you know, like, because part of the thing is he broke both of his legs horribly in this car accident, and she's kind of set them, but really badly, and then he gets addicted to painkillers that she illegally has, and then she does some other stuff to him that's like super fucked up. I guess I won't go into details. But yeah, so he is like a fucking mess. But I will say that like I was happy with the way it ended. I have kind of a need for stories to end in a certain way, and I don't like love it. And they don't. I'm trying to be vague because I feel like if you haven't read the book and you ever wanted to and you don't know how it ends, I shouldn't tell you, because like that's part of the thrill, I guess, of being like, is he gonna succeed? Is he gonna get away from her? What's gonna happen? I also thought one of the most creepy things about Annie Wilkes was how she, I mean, there are many creepy things, but how she turns things around to blame him for her actions all the time. Like, she's very like gaslighty and like whatever, and you know, and she'll be like, well, one of the things that she does something fairly early on in the book, and what was it? Like, oh, she gets really pissed off. She gets really mad because of something he says, and she breaks something by throwing it, and then she has to clean it up, and then she insists that, like, she's having to do it because he made her break it, like, that he made her break it, and so he, like, is responsible for this. And she has this, like, attitude, I don't know, he describes several attitudes that she has in the book. They're like a lot of different kind of moods that she'll be in, and he becomes like super expert at reading kind of where she's going. But one of them is that he says he hates the most is she'll get all kind of like weirdly like maternal, almost in a sense, not maternal, I don't know if that's quite the way to put it, but like she's weirdly like, but yeah, maternal, like proud of him in a maternal sense. It's like very, I don't know, it's a strange way to treat, you know, a grown-ass man that you're holding captive in your house. Yeah, I don't know, it's got a lot of sequences that are just really like tense and really, really wild. The only thing I didn't like, frankly, there were several parts where, because he writes this whole fucking book while he's there, and there were a couple of parts where we had to read part of the book, and I was like, I don't care for this. It's like, I don't care about this book, like, I'm not interested in it at all, and it's like dumb, and but it's actually kind of an interesting, there's a lot of like stuff in the book as well, like introspective stuff about like writing and the process of writing and why he writes and why, and also another thing is the book starts with him having like finished, or well, actually no it doesn't, it starts with him waking up in Annie's house, but he recalls what was happening before this point, and he had just finished his final Misery novel and was like so excited because he hates the character of Misery, and he had killed her at the end of this book, and yet then out of this whole experience he ends up writing this next Misery book, and he's like, actually this is like the best one I've ever written. So it's just kind of a weird thing, but I don't know, I really liked it. Also, a weird side note about the movie, which like I said I haven't seen, but I know what Annie Wilkes looks like in it. I don't know, I've seen like a picture of her or something. I don't know the actress, but like, you know, if you pointed her out, I'd be like, yeah, that's her. That's Annie Wilkes in Misery. I have no idea who plays Paul Sheldon. I couldn't tell you. I don't know what he looks like. I've never seen a picture of like an image of, I don't know why I saw an image of Annie Wilkes, but I did. But that's literally all I know about the movie. Yeah, and I'm guessing it was made in the 90s. That's my guess, but the book is from the 80s. It's not really important. But yeah, I like really liked it. I got into it so fast. I was like, holy shit, this is exactly what I want in my life right now. So that was great, and it made me want to read more things by Stephen King in the future, except I don't know what, because like significantly, this book doesn't have any supernatural horror. I'm not really that interested in supernatural horror generally. However, I will say that I think it is a possibility. And I know that one's about supernatural horror, but like it's also about small-town bigoted violence shown through a metaphorical... whatever. I feel like I already know too much about it, but also it's 1,000 pages long, so there is no way I could know too much about it. But anyway, that's not important. What is important is that I really liked Misery, and yeah, it was great. Alright, I read The Dragon Republic by R.F. Quang. Finished it last night, but it was too late to update this. Okay, wow, this is fat. I actually tried to read it for Tome Topple, round 12, which is the first time I've participated. I mean, it was like kind of a fail, because the first week I read The Wake of the Lorelei because that is over 500 pages, and I was going to read it anyway. And the second week I started this, but it took me an extra week to read it, so whatever. This was really good. It's the sequel to The Poppy War. It's, you know, epic high fantasy about a protagonist who is always doing terrible things. Like Rin, she's trying, but she keeps like just ending up in bad situations, and she keeps like making poor choices. I don't know. One of the characters kind of is like, Rin, you never think before you do anything, and then like there was a part in the climax where it's like Rin didn't think she did. I was like, there you go, girl. Not thinking. Oh, but so much great stuff happened in this. So the basic idea in this book, well, like it follows off pretty close to the end of the Poppy War. I think a few months have passed. I'm a little unclear on that. But some, you know, a small amount of time has passed. But Rin falls in with the Dragon Warlord because he's decided that he wants to try to kind of wage a civil war against Daji, the Empress. And Rin hates Daji because she found out in the first book, spoilers, whatever, that Daji had been instrumental in allowing the Muganese to attack Nikara. I think I've got the right terms. I think it's Nikara, which is like the country that they all live in. So, yeah, so she wants to kill Daji. That's her main goal at the beginning, and it looks like Vaisra, the Dragon Lord, is kind of like a way to facilitate her getting to do that. And then a whole bunch of other stuff happens. They have a civil war. There's a lot of like planning for that. There's some absolute wild stuff. I felt like it kind of picked up in the second half just because more wild stuff was happening. There was some stuff with the Hinterlanders. A few of them showed up. They don't like to be called Hinterlanders apparently, but that's too fucking bad. And yeah, so the cool, like there was some just really cool stuff, and I'm really excited for the third book. Like, yeah, I am very excited for it. Like, I think it is interesting, you know, to see where it's gonna go. There's a lot of stuff with the Hesperians in this as well, and they're like briefly mentioned in the first book, but they're basically Europeans in this universe. So they've got better technology and a weird monotheistic religion, and they're convinced that shamans are all evil, which, like, the shamans really have not demonstrated in any in any capacity that they're capable of not destroying everything. Like, I mean, I get it, it's terrible. You shouldn't try to destroy shamanism just because it's a thing that exists, and so you shouldn't try to destroy it. I don't know what I'm saying, but like, I also understand why anybody looking at that from the outside would be like, holy shit, no. This is a bad idea. Especially when Rin is your example of shamanism, because like, girl does not have it together. Although she has it together more in this book than she did in the last one. One of the main things in this book is she's trying to figure out how to like control the fire better, and for a large chunk of the book she actually doesn't have access to it for reasons. Kate is in this a lot. I love him. Kate is possibly my favorite character. Nezha is also in it a lot, and I also really enjoy his stuff. And it's also just so interesting because we learn some stuff about him in this book, and Rin learns this stuff, and Rin is like, that sucks, bro, but is also like wildly unsympathetic, which I think is so interesting because like, Rin is, it just makes her one of those people who is like, well, I suffered, so other people can deal with the same kind of suffering, or I assume no one has suffered worse than me. And it's like, those kinds of people are so fucking infuriating. But Rin is a lot. I honestly think she's a great protagonist. Like, really, she's a great character. She's always kind of like causing stuff to happen. And this is just kind of an aside, but I like that she's ugly. Now, I don't know actually if objectively she's ugly. If I actually saw her, I don't know if I would think she was ugly, but she describes herself that way. And I don't know, I just kind of am like, yeah, give me a female protagonist who's not pretty and doesn't know how to dress pretty and, you know, fake any kind of that stuff. Although, speaking of female characters, Venka is in some parts of this. I think she's probably going to be in the third book even more, and I'm very excited about that because I like Venka a lot. Yeah, just, there's so much good stuff. And the Hesperians are terrible. They're like super racist. They want to study the shamans, and so Viceroy like agreed for them to study Rin. And it's like fairly non-invasive and only once a week, but she's still like super freaked out by it. But then like, you just know that like, if they had the, you know, ability, just as soon as they have the ability to like honestly cut her up and dissect her and see what's going on, like, they would do it. Yeah, I don't know, it's just like, it's really good. And yeah, I want to read the third book. I don't know if I'm going to read it this year, but like, honestly, I probably should. Like, why wait, right? It's called The Burning God. I am not entirely sure if it's been published yet. Wait, we can find out. We can ask the internet. Okay, so according to the internet, The Burning God is expected on, what? Are we giving birth to this book, or are we publishing it? November 17th, 2020. So it's not out yet. I want to read it. So yeah, I don't know when I'm going to get my hands on that, but, you know, I'll be looking for it at the library, I guess, as November happens. But I'm kind of guessing that I won't read it this year, though, based on that. But anyway, this was really good. Okay, bye.